on, guys? This is Preachy. Today we're going to be thinking about one thing. Are you trying to be better on your prop warrior? What's going on, guys? This is Preachy. Today we're going to be talking about some advanced tips and playstyles that can buff your tanking ability, okay? Tanking is the very core ability of World of Warcraft that always improves. Not saying there's not always room for improvement as being a healer or a DPS, but pushing your tanking ability is going to be far more noticeable than gaining maybe 300 or 400 DPS or a couple more HPS. Being a better tank is a lot more about just gearing and getting your rotation down, okay? That's very important. Now, I have tanked every single boss in World of Warcraft since it was released, except for the Firelands and up, where I was a DPSer, and that has given me greater insight into being a tank, okay? And I want to share that with you and hopefully buff your tanking up. So what are we talking about? A couple of things. One, environmental awareness we're going to be covering, and our combat table coverage I'm going to talk to you about in this guide. And these are all things that are going to help you improve your play. So please pay attention, and we'll go through it step by step in true baller style. Sooner or later, you're going to be throwing out a big bro fist to those people. Let's start with environmental awareness. Being aware of everything is key to being a tank. You'll often find that raid leaders are regularly tanks, and there's a reason for that. And why? Because we don't have to watch the boss. We don't have to watch things like dot timers, things like that. We don't have to be tracking every single cooldown down to its last second to maximise our play. We don't have to do that as a tank. I absolutely love tanking. And I especially love the protection warrior. Dear to the heart, it's not even close to how I feel about it. Playing the protection warrior for the first time was like finding my absolute niche. And when you find your niche in an MMO, oh, it's a beautiful thing, guys. It's a beautiful thing. So let me tell you through it. Being aware of your environment is so important. When I switched from being a tank to a DPS, I spent the first raid not up on my feet, but down with my face in the mud, Forrest Gump style. Why? Because I took so much for granted as being a tank. I really did. And these are some things that help me step up my game even more as a tank, because you're always learning. The best ways of learning are hopefully through this. Playing against bad DPSs is never going to help you improve as a tank because your life is easy. Playing with exceptionally good healers also will not improve you as a tank greatly because you're always going to be alive. So what you need to be thinking of is, if you want to take your game to the next level, you're feeling very comfortable where you are, in the mid-range sort of playstyle and raids, think about moving forward or getting friendly with another tank who is far better than you. I jumped by leaps and bounds when I played with a better tank. I really went, wow. I thought I was a brilliant tank. I really did. I had an ego out here. I thought I was Mr. Cool. Then I played with a tank who shit on me. He absolutely shit on me. And I thought, wow, I need to take my game up to the next level. Otherwise, I'm actually just never even going to be able to go anywhere against this guy. So then I took it up a step. And that's how you should always be thinking in MMO. How can I turn my game up to the next level? Turn that shit to 11, baby, and really push it forward. That's what we're always trying to do. Why do we have so much extra attention to the environment as a tank? Well, quite frankly, unless we're doing interrupts, which is very rare as a tank, perhaps in a 10-man you're going to be doing that, or we need to be watching for certain boss percentages, which again is merely a glance, we can ignore the boss entirely. It's just a blockage on our screen. We just can ignore it. We don't need to be aware of it that much. We may have to watch for the odd spell cast, things like that, and prepare a cooldown for it. But these are all things we can be ready for beforehand. And with a decent UI setup where we can see a cast bar nice and clear in the middle of our screen, we don't even have to watch it that much at all. Now we're in the advanced level of play. If you're looking for the basic guide, which is how to gem, how to press your buttons, and little things like that, go ahead and click this guide here. See it right there? Low tech as fuck! That's how we roll at Preach Gaming, keeping that shit real. Click that link, it's going to take you through everything. In that heroic, I run through a heroic on that guy using a very undergeared prop warrior against some of the hardest hitting DPSs in the game, max gear level, and still roll with decent threat. Threat is non-existent now, okay? Beyond our first shield slam and our first devastate, we are solid. We're going to get misdirects, we're going to get trips, we're going to get all that good stuff. We're going to get instantly high vengeance now in the game. Our threat is going to be fine. So we no longer need to worry about hitting our shield slam at the very precise moment. We don't need to do that anymore, guys. We can forget about threat pretty much entirely. Unless it's a specific fight that requires certain different mechanics, threat is a non-issue. So then in your mind, you need to be doing this. 1. Where the fuck is that boss stood? Is it a good place? What makes a good place? This is number one on your list of priorities. As soon as you pull, where the fuck is that boss? Is the melee DPS happy? Why am I not mentioning the caster DPS? Because they can position themselves generally wherever the hell they want to be. Caster DPS have an easier time than melee. Now what does this boss do? Is he going to be firing rockets all over your ass? Is he going to be dropping flame patches, shadow bursts, all this kind of stuff? Can the melee DPS effectively see that? Put yourself in the shoes of a melee DPS, especially in a 25-man raid. You might have 7, 8, 9, 10 melee DPS bunched on top of each other doing damage with loads of graphical shit going on around them. It could be explosions. It's like Vietnam in there, baby. And what you need to be thinking of is, where have I put this boss? Are the melee DPS happy? Because in general, if the melee DPS are happy, everybody else is going to be happy in terms of the DPS, okay? You're going to have a much, much easier time. If you put a boss near a wall where the melee DPS are all sort of like bunched up like this and the rogues are doing their stabby action, that's no good, guys. It's a stabbing. It's a stabbing right in the face. You don't want to be doing that. They're going to, can you move this boss? Nothing worse as a tank than when someone says, dude, move the boss. What are you thinking about? Why are you tanking there? And you need to refresh this thought all the time, okay? So as soon as you pull, as soon as you're charging, you get your Spartan shield slam out of the way, you've got aggro, good. Let your fingers do the talking then, guys. You should be pressing those buttons like blindly now. This is advanced level stuff. You should not be watching your toolbar at all. You should just be letting your fingers do the work. Get your eyes open. Do I need to move this boss? Oftentimes people say, yo, Preach, what are you doing? I say, oh, I'm just moving into here. You've got loads of room now, guys. Get on with what you've got to do. Let me do my thing. I'm going to spend these first few seconds moving the boss into position. Now I'm fine. Now your best friend as a tank, step 2. This is step 2. After step 1, you've got your boss in position. Your best friend now is your left mouse button. That is your camera control button. You don't want to be moving as a tank, because what do we know about tanking? If we turn our back on a boss, you're dead. Okay? You are dead. You cannot realistically move as a tank. We are the king of the backpedalers. Backpedaling in general is considered the worst. Tank backpedal all the time. Why? Because we need to keep our ass behind us. We need to keep our ass, our cheeks, well and truly away from that boss. Because if we show our bare butts to that boss, you can guarantee what's going to happen. It's prison rules, baby. Prison rules. So we don't want to do that. Now you've got your boss in position. Everybody's happy. Melee DPS have got loads of room to look around. What are we thinking about now? We're now thinking about, what the hell does this boss do? What do I need to be ready for? And get your left mouse button held down and look around. Realistically, guys, during a standard still boss fight, you should always have your left mouse button pressed around. You should be looking around the room. What are you looking for? What the fuck is going on with the caster DPS? Are they all bunched up? Tanks are the first people to notice this, unless the caster DPS are very vocal. But you'll find a lot of the time the DPSs need to tunnel. They need to tunnel. People say, oh, you're a tunnel vision DPS. That means they're totally not paying attention. But a lot of the times, DPSs are told to push their DPS to the max, because a low DPSer is the first guy to get called out. It is. It's a hypocrisy. We say, you're tunnel visioning DPS. You didn't do enough damage. Only a very, very, very good player can do both. So what you're looking at is you're going to say, yo, guys over there, you guys are too bunched up, do you want to spread out? And you'll see them spread, baby. Get used to your microphone. A silent tank is a nightmare for any raid. Absolute nightmare. You need to be vocal. Put some bass in your voice, baby. Get out there. Be a decision maker. As a tank, you need to be loud and proud. You really need to do. You need to be the first one to point things out. You're also looking at where the hell your healers are. What's going on in this boss is these shadow crashes. There are 4 healers out of the 7, all stood on the same spot. One shadow crash, all 4 healers. You've lost half your healing team instantly as soon as a shadow crash comes out. Tell the healers, yo, dude, spread out a bit. All the healers are pushed together. If you get shadow crashed, you're in a right mess. And that means I'm in a mess, because I might have to blow a cooldown where I don't need to, because I know this boss is going to be at 30%. He's going to smash me in the face. I need my cooldowns. Don't make me blow a cooldown when I don't need to, especially a major one. Shield walling early, when you know you're probably going to need it later, is a nightmare, because all the healers are going to say is, you were supposed to shield wall that. Why didn't you shield wall? Well, I didn't shield wall because all you guys are stood there. You don't want to be in that situation, because then you're going to get the obvious comeback. No, you need to save your shield wall, whatever. If the healers do this, that's their problem. Block all that entirely. You can cut out that chain of conversation by simply pointing out in the beginning, guys, you stood too close together. Spread out so I'm not in a right mess. Please. Sorted. Okay? So that's your second point. Use your left mouse button all the time, guys. Get looking around. This applies for every tank, not just a protection warrior by any means. Look at everything that's going on around you. You don't need to watch the boss. Forget the boss. You've got aggro. The DPS care about the boss's health. All you need to watch for is specific boss mechanics. Is this boss going to do something at a specific percentage? Do you know how long it takes you to check what the percentage of the boss currently is? Less than a second of screen time. You've got the rest of the screen to play with, okay? Is the boss casting something? And if you have some cast bar that's way down off your screen, you're doing it wrong, guys. A good UI is important. Make sure your cast bar is nice and visible, somewhere central so you can see what the fuck is going on. You need to know straight away. So that's your first two things. And remember to keep recycling these ideas. These are ideas that should be always in your head. If you've just had to move or something has occurred somewhere, fucking move. And then reassess the situation. Where's the boss now? Is it in a good position? Is this helpful? Can I move back to a central position? In general, you always want to try and A, get the boss in the middle of the room. That gives everybody the full room to play with. Or is this boss doing something retarded like a knockback? As soon as a knockback is involved, if you get knocked back as a tank, find your ass a wall. Walls are now your best friend. In a boss that knocks you away, the wall is now your godsend. Why? Because he's going to knock you against the wall, you're straight back in the action. Melee DPS have a ton of ways of getting back into the action. What's worse is you get knocked away, out of healer range, absolute nightmare. Absolute nightmare. There's nothing worse than being knocked away from healers, and that boss comes stomping up to you like the baller, and you are in a whole world of trouble. So if you, as soon as you find a boss, even a new boss, you've never faced this boss before, you know what he does, he knocks you back, get your ass to a wall. Find that wall straight away so you can sort yourself out. Because once you're in position, everybody's happy. Really is as simple as that, guys, okay? Walls, friend. Left mouse button, friend. Keep reassessing these ideas. Where is the boss now? Let's say a flame patch just landed right near the melee. So the melee are now attacking sort of the left foot of the boss at a very, very obnoxious angle. Shimmy your shit to the right, baby. Give them some more room. Just a little strafe over. No problem at all. Everybody's going to be happy with the melee DPS going, thank God this tank knows what's going on. He's not just watching himself. That is the key. Don't just watch what's going on around you. As a tank, watch what's happening everywhere else. The healers had to go to some ridiculous position. Perhaps you can heroically leak your shit over there. Get yourself safe. The healers should be announcing this stuff, but not all healers do. Healers tend to be relatively quiet. Only some healers are really loud and vocal. So you need to be watching for it and preempting shit. This is what I told you in the heroic guide, okay? Well, even in a simple heroic, you should not be watching just what's going on in front of you. You need to be watching everything else. It's a patrol coming. You should be the first to know. As a tank, you should be first to know if a patrol is coming and prepare your actions accordingly. I've got solid aggro here. I can see that patrol coming. I'm going to charge that guy. I'm going to heroic leap that guy. I'm going to intercept that guy and get aggro on it before it starts smacking my healer, before it starts smacking the DPS and causes a whole world of trouble. You should be the first one there. As a tank, it's so important that you were aware of not only what's going on in front of you, but everything else around you, okay? That's the first step to upping your game. The second thing is, what gear choices do we make when we have a decent amount of gear? This can get very, very shady, especially now in World of Warcraft where we're getting 378 items thrown at us. Even some 381s are not difficult to get. We are way, way up there beyond when we started getting those early item level 333 blues. We're so much further on. And people are going to start mentioning to you on forums and in trade chat or even friends, what's your combat table coverage? Now, if you're unsure of what this is, let me explain it to you very easily. Combat table coverage. What is your combat table? Let's break it down. What's your combat table? Your combat table is your stats. When you open up your character stats, preferably in a raid environment, because that does help you when you've got all your buffs, make sure what is your dodge, what is your parry, and what is your block. Now, as we know, as we discussed in the other guide for patch 4.2, mastery buffs your block. Block is awesome, especially on heavy physical fights. Of course, block is the king. So what you'll find is a lot of tanks buff their mastery. And also, for a prot warrior, has another effect. It buffs our critical block, where we're blocking a ton more damage. Really, really good. Combat table coverage is how much of those stats add together, because dodge adds to parry, adds to block, includes some miss. How much does that add up to in a percentage, okay? So let's say you've got 80%. You add your dodge up, you add your parry. Let's make it easy. You've got 20% chance to dodge, you've got a 15% chance to parry, and you've also mixed in a 20 or 40% chance to block, adding your 5% miss. There you are, 80%. Dead easy. Now what that means is when that boss comes down on you with his hammer of fuck you up, that means you've got a 20% chance, 100 minus 80, 20% chance that that guy's going to hit you full on in the mush, right across the chops. You don't want that. Now you're going to take full, unmitigated damage. There's a 20% chance of that happening. What we want to do is gear it in such a way that we have full combat table coverage. That means we add up to 100%. We are never, ever, remember it goes slightly higher than that for level 83 bosses, okay? Use the macro down in my description to show you exactly how to rock this stuff and find out what your combat table coverage is. What we're talking about is making sure that when that hammer of fuck you up hits you in the face, it's either dodged, he either misses, he either parry it, or you block it. You will never again take a full-on hit in the face. Never again. How good is that? No matter what happens to you physically, you will always mitigate some of that damage. You will always reduce it. That is the dream. That's what we're aiming for. Check your stats out. Where are you on the combat table coverage? If you are at the right settings, boom, you are never going to be smacked by any boss again. It doesn't matter if it's Ragnaros or Deathwing. It doesn't matter. You are not going to mitigate some of that damage. Now, as a prot warrior, we can push that even further, especially on heavy physical fights, okay? This is the advantage we have of protection paladins. Once they reach their full combat table coverage, they are completely done. All they can do then is buff their dodge and parry, which is obviously better than blocking. Being completely avoiding the damage is better than mitigating damage. Easy enough, sorted. So as a prot warrior, we can even buff that a little bit further. We can be a little bit sneaky, but we then have to decide what we want to do. I've reached my combat table coverage, done, sorted, happy. What do I do now? Should I stop gemming mastery now and go for more dodge and parry? Or should I buff my mastery a little bit more? Why, Preach? Didn't you just say for a protection paladin they can't get any more benefit? Not so for the prot warrior. Prot warriors could go further and buff their critical block, okay? So we block tons more damage, and that can sometimes be more helpful. Why? Because nobody likes spiky damage. No healer likes a tank that takes no damage, no damage, no damage. Boom! Smacks right in the face. We don't want that. We want smooth damage intake. I've spoke about this before. You want smooth damage intake. Why? Because it's easier on the healers. They can continuously cast efficient heals on you, nice and tidy. You're regularly taking damage. They're not just overhealing and wasting the mana, because you've got to put it in a healer's perspective. If he's constantly tunneling heals into you and you're not taking any damage, eventually he's going to be like, I can afford to throw a heal over there. I can afford to throw a heal over there. What happens? Your chance runs out. You take a couple of smacks in the face. True, you blocked them, but the healers weren't pre-casting. They got a little bit sidetracked with what they were doing. No good. Smooth damage intake. Smooth, smooth, smooth is what we want. We want regular, little damage intake. For the big, big hits that we need spore cooldown for, the cooldown is there, because we always had a nice smooth damage intake. We didn't have to blow things like shield wall, last stand, all that good stuff, big trinkets. We didn't have to blow them in the past because the healers were always healing us and we were taking regular, smooth damage. So easy to understand when you think about it from the other point of view. As a tank, it's all about, I've got aggro, why did I die? And healers were like, well, you just got hit right in the face for like tons and tons of damage. Sometimes that happens, guys. Don't get me wrong, sometimes I've seen combat logs of people getting smashed even with maximum stats really, really quickly. That happens. We can't do much about that, guys. We can't predict it. It'll happen quicker than you can blow a cooldown. What we're talking about is doing our best to prevent that happening. If you were taking regular, steady incoming damage, there's a minute chance that even in the worst of the worst situations where suddenly the boss hits us twice in less than a millisecond, that we had a heal land in that gap. Because we were taking regular incoming damage. We just managed to get that heal. We just managed to stay topped up. That chance is there, guys. Look at it from what everybody else is doing. The healers are not going to keep healing you if you just take no damage. I'm dodging, I'm dodging, I'm dodging. I'm like Neo, motherfucker. And then suddenly you get absolutely smashed in the face Morpheus style and you're on your fucking head with your nose bleeding. And it's a wipe. Often if you die as a tank, it's a wipe. So you need to sort that out. So critical block is actually really good. It's something I recommend, is that you buff your mastery beyond the combat table coverage and get more critical block. Then we have things like doing different gear sets. What is different gear sets? Why do I need them? Well, as an advanced tank, you always want to be looking for these things. Not only have you buffed your environmental awareness, so you're avoiding all the damage that the DPS usually take, you've done that. Now you want to look at other things. And so what is this boss doing to me? Is he giving me constant constant magical damage where my block counts for shit. My block doesn't mean a goddamn thing. Now in general, you will have still melee hits, so that block is still coming in useful. So gemming, mastery and all that is still going to be beneficial to you. What you then need to think about is what the majority of this damage is magical damage. Damage that I'm not doing shit about. Have you been blowing your shield block, which remember now buffs your magic damage resistance, at stupid times, just spamming it on cooldown? Why weren't you saving it for that flame breath? Why weren't you? Because that's a huge amount of damage reduction. Are you packing the right trinkets? Remember the Tol Barad trinket is still immense. A mastery trinket which we're looking for, and a really low cooldown magic absorption and magic resistance. Absolutely amazing trinket. Could you swap your meta gem? If you're pushing for a big first kill and your guild is really struggling, and so why not think about swapping that meta gem for something that's going to be 2% reduced magical damage? Something like that. All adds up, especially in heavy magical fights. We had this sort of issue with Nefarian. Nefarian was shadow breathing us, we had lightning conductors landing on our head, we were saving cooldowns for it, and a good tank had a cooldown for them all. And God, do the healers tell the difference, guys. This is what's going to make you the boss. You want to be the boss. When you walk into a dungeon, you want to be ready. So you've got Nefarian flame breathing. Yes, he's meleeing you like an absolute truck, so you've got all your mastery stuff up. But you picked wisely. You had your shield block ready for his shadow flame. You had a trinket up for his electrocute. And you were just like, the healers are going, dude, this is fine. Sure you don't want an external cooldown? I was asked that several times. Do you want an external cooldown? No. I'm cool. I'm fine, man. I'm absolutely sorted. I can look after this myself. You guys worry about everybody else. I'm doing my job as the tank. I'm reducing my damage down as much as humanly possible. I'm also refreshing in my head where I need to be. This is why Nefarian is a great example. I recommend anybody to tank it, even though it's outdated content by a mile. Go and check it out and just tank the boss. Why? Because the boss is always rotating. In a tank's mind, you're always looking at other things. You had to watch the other tank who was kiting ads around the side to make sure he wasn't being flame breathed by where you were facing. You also had to watch how the melee were. Are they in danger of being tail swiped because they've had to move around as well? This is all things that need to happen. We've got flame creeping across the floor. How are the melee coping with that? How is the raid coping with that? How can you make it better? A slight adjustment to the left. Your tank on the other side is fine. He's got loads of kite path. He's not in danger of being tail swiped. You've got also the melee DPS are happy. They're not in the flame. They're not in the flame on the floor. They're not in danger of being tail swiped. A good tank will make all those things happen. And the thing is, no one will notice it really. Healers might notice it. The melee DPS sure as hell won't notice it. The caster DPS sure as hell won't notice it. But you'll certainly find your healers notice it. They'll have an easier time. All great things, guys. These are the advanced ideas of what you to put into play. You can practice them in even heroics. And finding a dungeon, just going in there, finding a boss. I'd recommend Nefarian and heroic if you can go and do it. It's a piece of piss these days to kill, but you'll still get that practice in, okay, guys? Positioning and environment. Think about your gear. Every time you go up against a new boss and you try it for the first time, you think, fuck, this is doing loads of magical damage. Perhaps I should swap in this trinket. Perhaps I should swap my meta gem. Perhaps I should do this and that, this and that. How can I improve my character? Do I need to swap some gear? I mean, am I taking huge amounts of only magical damage? Maybe I need more stamina. Remember, we said it all the time in our guides, don't gem for pure stamina. But shit, dude, this boss is just constant magical damage. All the time, I'm just soaking magical damage. Maybe I should buff my HP pool, because there's only a certain amount of things I can do to stop magical damage. But if I'm getting it all the time in the chest, maybe I need to buff my health up just that little bit, make it even easier. Okay? Take these tools, guys, put them into your prot warrior. Don't worry too much about you. So you'll be very, very comfortable now with your talents and abilities. Very, very comfortable. Get in there and use these things and be aware of everything around you guys, alright? This is Preachy talking to you about the Advanced Prot Warrior Guide.